Chapter 19, Red Kayak. Brady! My cousin yelled at the top of his lungs. I set my bag down and whirled around to see my cousin Kevin waving on the train platform in North Kingston, Rhode Island. My other cousin Emily jumped up and down beside him, and my aunt stood smiling. We hadn't seen one another since last summer when we vacationed together at Stone Harbor, New Jersey, and it struck me right away how much taller Kevin was. We were the same age. Did I seem bigger to him? And Emily, who was only 7, had grown too. Her hair, short and blonde at the beach just months ago, was darker and long enough for a ponytail, which swung behind her head as she ran up for me. "What did you bring me?" Kevin asked, like a little kid, taking my duffel bag and grinning. He had a terrific smile, a million freckles on his face, and new wire-rimmed glasses that made him look smart. "I brought you a piece of gum," I joked. I knew we had packed something for him, but I couldn't remember what. My aunt, a lot like my mom, only thinner, gave me a hug. "How was the trip?" she asked. "Good," I replied. "Were you scared?" Emily asked. I shook my head and chuckled. "No, it was fun." "Ah, I want to do that, Mom," she whined. Can I take a train to Maryland by myself?" "We'll see," Auntie Janet said, using a phrase that was very familiar to me. It had already been a long day, but it was only 5 o'clock when we pulled into their driveway in Jamestown. Kevin had to leave right away for a clarinet lesson, so I put my things on the cot set up in his room and let Emily pull me into the basement playroom to see her Barbies. "Do you want to play?" she asked eagerly. I sat on a hassock and wrinkled my nose. "I'll just watch, okay?" It was sort of fun watching Emily. She made me think of my sister, though, because Amanda would have been the same age, only 1 younger. I had a hunch my sister would have been a tomboy, like JT's sister Kate. She would have learned how to bait trot lines, pitch a tent, and play basketball. But even so, I thought, sitting there, I wouldn't have minded a bunch of Barbie dolls and stupid girl stuff like that if she could have lived. When Emily finished dressing up one of her Barbies, she held it up. "Pretty cool," I said, taking the doll in my hands. "What's this in her hand, a pocketbook?" "No, silly," Emily exclaimed. "That's her Palm Pilot." "A Palm Pilot? Boy, she's lucky. I don't even have one of those." Emily lifted her chin and snatched the doll back. "That's because she has a job. She runs a company, and she has to stay organized." "Oh," I said, deciding I'd had enough of Barbie. "Look, I think I better go help your mom with dinner." But upstairs, my auntie didn't need help. She told me to take a soda and go sit in the den. "Turn on the television if you want." I chose a Sprite from the refrigerator and turned on the TV, but there wasn't much on, so I clicked it off and started browsing through the family photograph albums on the bookshelf beside me. I discovered myself in the first one I opened, a picture of Kevin and me when we were little, sitting in our long johns on the couch. I had to grin, and remembering how comfortable those pajamas were. I had a pair once with rocket ships and another pair with lizards. The pictures brought back some neat memories. In one photograph, we had all our fishing poles, me and Dad, Uncle Larry, Kevin, my older cousin Joey, and who was away at college now. In another picture, we gathered around Auntie Janet's kitchen table, celebrating Joey's 12th birthday with a cake. Beneath Joey was a picture of Auntie Janet giving Emily a baby bottle, and on the same page, a picture of my mother hugging a smiling baby. Beside it was a photograph of the same baby sitting on one of those little baby seats beside Mom. I didn't recognize the baby, so I glanced at what my aunt had written underneath the first picture. "Dee holding Amanda, 3 months old." Dee was my mother, but of course, what other baby would my mother be holding? Quickly, I searched my memory as I set the book back down on my lap. The baby in the seat was smiling. She wore pink-footed pajamas, and there were dark curls on her head. Warm tears filled my eyes as I took in these details. After I blinked, everything blurred. Still, I couldn't stop staring at that photograph because nothing else came to my mind. It was the first picture I'd ever seen of my sister. My aunt saw what was happening. "Brady," she said softly as she crossed the room with a spatula in her hands. I wiped at my eyes with one hand. "Sorry," I apologized. "But it's the first picture I've seen of Amanda." Auntie Janet sighed and sat down beside me. "I didn't even remember what she looked like," I told her. "Oh, she was a beautiful baby, Brady," my aunt smiled, and I couldn't smile back. "How come Mom doesn't have pictures for us?" I asked. "I'm sure she has pictures, somewhere," my aunt said. "But, it was all so painful for your mother, for your father too. I think the only way your mother could deal with the grief was to not have any reminders around." I looked up, wondering if Auntie Janet knew about the butterfly garden. There's a locked trunk in the attic that has Amanda's stuff in it, I said. It's like Mom and Dad packed her up and put her away, like they wanted to pretend she never existed. Everybody has a different way of dealing with these things, my aunt replied. You need to try to understand. I examined the photograph again, and this time detected Dad's eyes in her little face. It's hard to explain, but his eyes are dark like mine. It looked as though both Amanda and I had Dad's brown curly hair, too. It doesn't mean you can't have a picture of Amanda, my aunt said. Would you like this one? I can't even, I didn't even have to think about it. I nodded right away. Carefully, she lifted the plastic page and removed the photograph of Amanda sitting in her little baby seat. Here, she said, put it in a special place when you need to see your sister. She'll be there. I pulled my wallet out from my back pocket of my jeans and opened it. There was a secret place under my ID where Mom had told me to keep an emergency $10 bill. I had to fold the photograph on one edge to make it fit, but I made sure the fold didn't touch Amanda. It was a comfort knowing I had a picture of my sister hidden away in my wallet. Later that night, while Kevin was in the bathroom brushing his teeth, I took her out for one more look, then tucked the photo back in under the $10 bill and pushed my wallet deep down inside my duffel bag. Over the next few days, Kevin and I had a lot of fun riding bikes, playing video games, shooting baskets, and skateboarding. Jamestown is on an island, and every day with Emily, we climbed around on the rocks down by the water and found lots of neat stuff washed up in the shallow tidal pools. Minnows, mussels, periwinkles, even some teeny tiny crabs. We all ate lobsters at Duffy's Tavern, and one day we walked over around Newport on the mainland, where I stopped in a gift shop and bought a paperweight with seashells in it for my dad, and for my mom, a refrigerator magnet that was a miniature version of a lighthouse with a little light that blinked. I wasn't naive. I knew this whole week had been a planned effort to get my mind off of what had happened in the river. It had worked great too, I thought. I was having fun. The food was good. I was sleeping better at night. I started wishing I could stay in Rhode Island for the whole summer, sleeping in the cot in Kevin's room. But I knew I'd just be hiding out, postponing what I had to do, which was to go home and to deal with that drill and the whole problem once and for all. All the way back on the train, I kept turning it over in my mind how JT never would have drilled holes in the kayak if he thought someone was really going to get hurt, let alone killed. JT was a good kid, hardworking, honest. I kept thinking about all the years he was homeschooled by his mom and all that religion he had pumped into him. If I told and got us all in trouble, it would blow his family right out of the water. I could just see pages of the Bible floating in the air, and at a terrible time too, with JT's father in the hospital waiting for a new kidney, and them needing JT on the farm. I slumped into my train seat and turned to look out the window with my chin cradled in my hand, thinking back to when JT first came to public school. It was in the 6th grade, right after his father got sick. His mother couldn't handle teaching the kids at home and running the farm too, so she sent them off on the bus to school. It was hard for JT because he was shy, and the only 2 people he knew were Digger and me, and we weren't in any of his classes. The only times we saw him at school were at lunch and during basketball practice. As if that weren't bad enough, there was this bully, Curtis, who started picking on JT all the time. Called him Chicken Man. Said out loud how he could smell the chicken poop when JT walked into the room. I didn't know why Curtis chose JT to pick on. Because he was new? Because he bowed his head in prayer at the cafeteria table, even if it was just an ice cream sandwich? Because he looked a little dorky in his tall, lanky body? Honestly, I don't know. I could tell you this. The person who defended JT the most was Digger. He even got suspended once for fighting with Curtis in the boys' room, where he had taken him on for stuffing feathers into JT's locker. Curtis stopped picking on JT after that. Didn't want to mess with Digger, I guess. Digger's tough. Strong, too. I remember how he once scooped up Hank and put him on his shoulders for a ride and then twirled Leanne around by her arms in the front yard, the 3 of them spinning around and around until they all fell down together, laughing. Pulling my hands away from my chin, I sat up in the seat. I crossed my arms. Digger didn't mean to kill Ben either. Digger was my friend. A friend who once pulled me from a frozen cow pond and saved my life. We were only 13 years old. We once shared a dream together. Didn't this matter to anyone? Uncrossing my arms, I felt for my wallet with its secret picture of Amanda. Then I squeezed my eyes shut, not wanting to even envision the pain I would cause my mother if I, or anyone else, told and got us all in trouble. When the train made a stop, I gazed out the window, watching people hustle away, clutching their briefcases, pulling their rolling suitcases, putting the cell phones up to their ears. None of their lives were as complicated as mine, I thought. I'd swap out with any one of them. I even imagined myself getting off and just walking. Kids my age ran away all the time, but I wouldn't have a clue where to go, and I only had about $13 in my pocket. It was just a crazy thought. Just a crazy thought, that's all, because it wasn't in me to run away. As we pulled away from the station, bright afternoon sun streamed through the windows, making me squint. I closed the little curtains and leaned my head back against the seat. I didn't even want to listen to music. By the time we rolled into Baltimore, hours later, I knew what I had to do.